Hey everyone, Norm from Tested here, and wrapping up this week with another model making project, a diorama project, this time mostly everything off the shelf. I've been doing a bunch of fabrication projects at home, but today I'm back in the Tested studio working on, well, one of my favorite collectibles, one of my favorite characters in animated film, the Iron Giant. So a little bit of backstory. This Iron Giant comes from Mondo, and Mondo from Austin, Texas. They have done big posters and actually do also figures as well. A couple years back, they put up this 18-inch Iron Giant license, fully articulated, amazing figure. I didn't get a chance to get in on that, and it's just impossible to get these days. But thankfully, in their new Mecha series, they put out a new Iron Giant, this one at 12 inches. Now, it's a really nice figure, really posable, lots of interchangeable accessories, exactly the kind of stuff that I like. But, you know, it's not very imposing. When I think of Iron Giant and how he was portrayed in that film, he's a giant robot. And pop quiz, how tall is the Iron Giant actually in that film? Canonically, Google says 50 feet tall. Yeah, not quite as big as, you know, your Mecha Godzillas, but still, he's gonna loom over trees and forests. Where was that? It was in Maine, right? Upper northeast is where that took place. So that's what we're gonna do today. I wanna find a way to make this 12-inch tall figure look imposing like how the character is portrayed in the film. And thankfully, this is 12 inches tall. Iron Giant is 50 feet tall. That means, quick math, it's 1/50th scale. And 1/50th is really close to 1/48th scale, which is O scale in the world of miniature trains. Boom, dots connecting. There's prefab stuff available all over the internet in the world of scale trains I can use to create a diorama around Iron Giant. So that's what we're gonna do today. I've already bought everything. Once I had this idea, I went on a shopping rampage. I honestly have never delved really into the world of O-scale model making before, but I have a bunch of things I think will make for a good diorama. First of all, the theme of this will be trees, the idea. I got these two really nicely tall from Woodland Scenics. You know, trees like this, you can get, it works at multiple scales, right? So it says this tree works at N, HO, and O scale. We're doing O scale. It just means because of the way the foliage is dressed, it can read as 40 feet tall. It can read as 100 feet tall, depending on the things you have surrounding it. So this is gonna read basically about 45 feet tall. My idea is Iron Giant is maybe peering over two trees. And then something that really helps then communicate the scale is this building here. So this is a little wood shack. This one is specifically for O scale. They do sell them at HO scale as well, also from Woodland Scenics. So if I place this guy in front, and then you can get like a big pack of trees as well. Again, these trees will read at multiple scales. I'm gonna go decorate and surround this platform here with these trees. We're gonna use our trusty crushed nutshells and just some floral moss, again, used in past projects. Put it all together with some Super 77 glue. And then as my base, we're gonna use some foam. So I wanna create some lightly uneven terrain, not quite flat. So I'm gonna carve up some of this lightweight open-celled foam, and then we're gonna cover it up, smooth it out, and then start making this diorama. Okay, enough talking, enough preamble, let's get to making. I'm trying to get that uneven surface here. And I don't need it to be uneven throughout because I'm gonna be hiding Iron Giant behind. So I just really want unevenness in the front enough to plant this hut down and plant a tree in there. So yeah, getting there. Okay, so I think I have this pretty uneven surface. And I don't actually want to start putting foliage on here because apparently this type of foam doesn't really adhere well and paint isn't really stick to it because how porous it is. So we're going to cover this up with a thin sheet of HD foam, and I'm going to spray some of this Super 77 on both sides of this and kind of create a top surface that I can massage and maybe put even a heat gun to. Okay, at this point, I'm really just kind of blocking out where I wanted the arrangement of the trees. I got my two tall trees here, Iron Giant behind it, and then a bunch of small trees around it, trying to blend in the scene. Got my little wood shed in the front here, and the whole thing is definitely a little wider than I had in my head. I'll have to do a little more blending, of course, of that moss on the ground. But I also have some lighting that I want to integrate in here, some kind of built into the scene lighting. And these are just lampposts at O scale, which actually end up being really tall, maybe too tall for what I have in mind. Typically, I guess when they're connected, they're going to be this tall, which almost dwarfs Iron Giant. So maybe I'll just go with this height and place it above maybe the front entrance of the woodshed. And these kind of lights for miniature trains are all powered, at least with this system, by their light hub and power supply. And I can wire all of that underneath the foam here, maybe carve out some channels. So that's not going to be a problem, but that will be next. And then really gluing everything down and doing more coverage of that foliage. All right, so I'm really happy with what I am so far. It's not complete yet, but let me update you on the progress of this. So I got my foliage in, I've blocked out. Iron Giant is posed behind our two 40-foot-ish trees. He's got his hands separating them, looking over. I have my miniature woodchuck here, along with a shortened street light here. And it's also wired, so we can even turn on that street light, and it gives it just a little bit of a glow in here. Now, I'm also combining this with my favorite set of small spotlights, LED spotlights I've covered before. And so I have just a few loosely scattered here, but when I turn that on, let's see, it turns into a whole scene. And the combination of the trees, the building, the light coming up, hitting the trees, and then Iron Giant's head right here, as if he's being blinded by spotlights or car lights. That is what I'm super, super pleased with. Like, I had this idea in my head when I got this figure. How can I make him look imposing? How can I put him in a space that fits his world? And thankfully, through the supply of readily available model train, foliage, and environmental sets, we have now given him a home. I'm going to take this project home and maybe do some laser cutting, create a base, maybe a wooden frame around the whole thing so I can carry it, as well as a place to stick these lights permanently and fix them. But we have basically the essence of this diorama. Again, super simple, not much fabrication at all, just a little bit of foam carving, everything off the shelf. And all it takes is connecting the dots between scale of what's available off the shelf and the hero character here. Thank you so much for joining me on this quick, slap together, quick and dirty diorama build. We'll have more projects, more fun stuff on the site. I'm gonna take this home and we're gonna finish off with some beauty shots. So enjoy. All right, so it's a couple days later, and I wanted to give you an epilogue, a coda to this video. As you can see, the diorama has changed just a little bit, and I think I've got it to near its final state where I'm going to set this up for photography and display. First thing you may have noticed that's changed is the base in itself. When we last left the office, I just had it sitting on foam, and I always knew I wanted to create some type of display base for it, and I had a laser cut base in mind. So I loaded up Illustrator and designed a hexagonal base. Hexes are very in at the moment, and partially also because it was going to be a little wider than I wanted it to be deep, and I kind of set it to make sure it was under that kind of 14-inch width, so it can still fit inside like an IKEA Detolf case. And then very simply just cut off the excess pieces of foam here just with another box cutter. One of the nice things about designing this laser cut base with these walls that I have around it is I get to tuck in that foam around and kind of hide the seams, all that extra foliage spilling over, so it feels more like a single unit. And then in doing that, I also realized I could have started off with this base, and now that I have that file and that template, in the future, if I want to do a similar diorama, I could actually just carve the foam and build that base first, and then build up from there. Other things I did, I also wanted some kind of extra life in this scene. So I found online a model of a deer and then 3D printed 2 small deer at the appropriate scale. So I have them running out of the trees, kind of away from the Iron Giant here. But I did plant the lights in, and these lights, I'll have links to where you can find them, these little spotlights. You know, in the video, you might see them flicker a little bit, but in person, if I turn them off and on, Yeah, they look super great. Actually, I have two of them hidden in the back just to give some uplighting to the Iron Giant. I think that uplighting really helps with the sense of scale because of these tiny spotlights. I really like these. And they're not glued in or taped in. I actually use just two push pins, two sewing pins to have them just embedded into the foam. And so one of the nice things about this type of diorama is that everything can be futz with. I can move the trees around if I want very easily. I can, of course, repose the Iron Giant. And if I just want a different angle or kind of move things around for, of course, the photography. And I think it looks really nice. Like my big takeaway for this is you don't need to have a ton of fabrication experience to make something like this because there's some really great off-the-shelf parts. And I'm just really happy I got this Iron Giant looking really cool. And then when you add things like some atmospheric aerosol here, a little bit of the fog, it just creates a wonderful scene. This is just a really fun project. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.